I will call the
Public hearing.
public hearing. I'm trying to think of the word to order. We have a public hearing on the rezoning request for Lexington County Tax Map 01925010003, which is 7546 Eastview Drive, from single-family residential to office commercial. Anyone who'd like to address council, do so. We just ask you give us your name and address for the record. Anyone who would like to address us on that? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing and call the meeting to order. And I'll recognize Councilman Youngener to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. I pray that you just be with us as we make the right decisions for this town. And we thank you for all the improvements that have happened in our town and the progress and the growth. Lord, I pray that you will bless each of the citizens that came to the meeting tonight and protect them as they return to their homes. In your name we ask. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Next item on the agenda is the reading of the minutes for July 15th, 2014. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any comments or any questions? All in favor then of the minutes as written, do so with show of hand. And next item is the administrative briefing. Mr. Brown is not here, so he can't answer questions, but I don't know if anybody has anything or any comments or anything they wanted to say on anything that's on there.
Is Mr. Brown coming?
He's on now. I think he's out until the 9th.
Oh,
yeah.
He's out till next Monday.
Oh, okay.
He's on vacation.
And one thing I was going to say on item C, informational items, I was also going to, under receive communications, there's some people that want to do a concert in the, well, maybe that's not it, it's number D, Summer Relief. I had asked them to come by and kind of explain everything to us. They may be, I see one of them back there, and we'll do that during city communications, but kind of answer all our questions, whatever on that.
That's already been scheduled. It's going to happen on the 23rd.
Well, I think they're shooting for that. There was a couple things that came up as far as maybe the number of people. I think they met with Chief Buck, and there may be more people anticipated than what they thought, so we may need to look at a difference in the police service or whatever. But if we want to, we'll go ahead and move to receive communication.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought y'all advertising it on the Channel 2. I was all excited about it.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good thing.
Hi.
Hello.
This is a little intimidating. I'm standing in for our pastor. He's on vacation. Well, first, I think you guys are already aware of what the concert festival is.
Who are you?
I'm Russell Cushman. No one particularly important. I'm his number 2 at Columbia Church. I'm the student ministry director and small group pastor. At the Summer Relief Festival, kind of our vision for it was just to bring the town of Irmo together in something just very fellowship-based while collecting food for sharing God's love. Originally, we just really wanted to use your beautiful new park, and that was pretty awesome. It's a beautiful park. And kind of do a trial run for music events in that beautiful amphitheater. So what has happened, I think, is its impact through varied advertisement has kind of become bigger than originally it was from a perspective of security. I just got briefed really briefly by our pastor, and it said that we were expecting somewhere between 12 to 1,600 people over the entire amount of the event, which is from 2 to 8, and we could have twice that many. So one of the problems would be police personnel, and having adequate security for such an event. I think it'd be a great dry run for the orchestra that's coming just a few weeks later, but I guess that's kind of up to you guys to vote on if you can allocate those resources at that time.
Sir, I think you're right about more people than anticipated. At the farmer's market Saturday, 3 people told me, I'll see you on the 23rd. And I thought, that's that, you know, anyway, people don't usually do that. Keep the date in the back of their mind this early in the month. I think there will be a big crowd there.
Yes.
I believe so. That's just my 2 cents.
And I think maybe, if I remember, JD had met with,
Yes.
and y'all anticipated maybe, or you say 4,000 maybe people, or 4 to 6 or something, is that?
They've done a direct mail advertisement to 15,000 people.
Okay. So you think maybe a bunch?
If they get half of that,
Bunch. Could show up.
the math adds up pretty quick, even if they get a third.
Okay.
Which is more likely than half.
Right.
Direct mailers never work. I don't even know why we waste the money.
But if they mail to 15,000, if they get 10%, it's still a sizable number of people.
Sizable number. And it's for sharing God's love, which is
And I
charity
think
we all love.
he said it was, is it $30 an officer?
Per hour, correct.
And how many was needed for the 3 hours or 6 hours there was?
If they have 1,000 people, we figure 2 officers would be fine for the type of event they're looking to put on and what they're looking to host. If it gets much bigger than that, they're going to have to start adding officers. If they get up to 5,000, 6,000 people, we're looking at 5, 6 officers.
So we would need, say, 6 times 180. Is that right? 6 times 30, 180 times 6
What time
hours.
is it again?
From 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Music starting from 3 to 8 and the market being there from 2 to 6.
Market, what market?
There'll be a small representation of the farmers market. I think around 30 or so vendors set up along the line heading towards the amphitheater.
Yeah, I think if I remember what Mr. Richards is, the farmers market girls are going to have an extra farmers market set up over there that day too. And there's anticipating maybe 800 people from that coming, plus whatever may be coming for the bands. So I think in what Mr. Richards' question was the other day was, is this something we as a town would be interested in sponsoring as far as whatever
The police.
the police overtime and all that kind of stuff is, which may be, and I ain't got a calculator, but say
If you got 6 officers, $1,800,
180 times 6, is that right?
yeah, 180 and times 6.
$1,100.
And Bob's out of town, so he didn't have really,
Yeah.
I just told him to come over here, we could talk about it, and then if we need to decide later this week, we can. We just need to let
Can't
him
decide
know.
later this week, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, we need to kind of let them know as soon as we can. If we can do it tonight, if y'all want to say you're opposed or not opposed, then that'll kind of give us an idea. We can let Bob know when he gets back to
You know, you're looking at about $1,100 if indeed we can do it from that type frame. I know that when we've done some other things, you generally have to have the officers there a little before starting because people don't wait. It's not gated, so they don't wait till the clock strikes
Right.
2 to walk in. And there's some cleanup afterwards that and breakdown of. It sounds like there's going to be vendors in there. I think we need to see a plan as to how those vendors are going to be set up, or the power is necessary or not.
here, and I don't read that real quick.
You say your church is sponsoring this?
Yes, sir.
It's for sharing God's love.
And people will just bring canned foods, and then whatever they collect goes to sharing God's love. And I think the bands were playing for free, I guess, or whatever.
Most of the bands are playing for the headliner charge a nominal fee.
Okay.
I hadn't seen this, but
That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm kind of blindsided. I haven't seen, all I saw was a little thing on Channel 2, but there's a big concert.
If we could just hand this.
Yeah, look. Did I get a copy of that? I can get a copy of that. The email.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So this is just our sponsorship packet. See kind of how the whole thing's broken down. Sir.
I think there's some other questions that are going to need to be answered. I don't know if this is the time to try to do that or if we want to set a time to do it. I know that the farmers market ladies, Heather and her group, had asked the town administrator about some sponsorship of helping them pay for some inflatables in the little park here during a farmer's market on Saturday. And he had a problem with that ethically as to the town paying for something for a group that was outside the town. So you know, I think there's some questions there. I'll raise the same questions I raised with the farmers market. It appears that you're talking about having some vendors there. Obviously, with the farmers market vendors is one thing, but these other vendors are going to have to produce to the town an insurance policy showing that it holds us harmless, especially being that they're serving something that is consumable. That was required of the farmers market, and of course they did that. But you know, it's those kind of questions I think need to be answered.
When will, you say JD's on vacation?
He's on vacation. He should be back Monday. Well, not should, will.
Okay.
Who's JD?
I think he's the pastor up there at the church.
Is that Jeremiah?
Jeremiah?
Yes.
Jeremiah. I spoke to him.
This is the church over there on Royal Tower?
Yeah, used to be Dutch Fort.
Yeah.
Christian church, I think. Or they were in that building
Yeah.
one time. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to take care of these particulars, but I would certainly be in favor of providing police because it is charitable. I think it's a wonderful idea, and it's a good trial run before the orchestra, I think.
Yeah, and I would think too, and it may, I don't know, I remember what you're talking about, thing with, but since it is a nonprofit and it is nobody's, I'm saying, making money, then I think it'd be easier to help them as opposed to a business type. If somebody comes in and sells tickets and all like that.
I agree. That you still got the legal standpoint of making sure that we're protected and held harmless with.
And I can't remember, I know the guy came in last Friday, and I think he'd been in one of the time before, and he had spoke to Bob. And I think Bob told him about the insurance, but I'm not 100%
Do y'all have insurance?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do y'all have insurance?
Yes, we do. We have full liability for everything that happens on our grounds or at our
I'm
events.
saying for this event. Do y'all have insurance for this event?
I know we're buying it.
It's probably very simple to get a rider from your carrier.
Exactly.
Well, why don't, since our guy Bob is out of town too, if he can get in touch with him, or Jeremiah can get in touch with Bob when he gets back Monday, he'll be back in, then maybe we can have all those particulars worked out, and it sounds like council, I guess, is in agreement for the 1,000, 1,200, whatever it may be. That we'll kind of cover that maybe, and then we can kind of go from there.
I'll make sure to inform him. Thank you so much.
Well, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
On your event spec sheet, you have a list of partners, and you have Irmo Police Department, Irmo Fire Department, Irmo Chamber of Commerce, Irmo Farmers Market. your church and First Alliance Bank. So those are indeed partners.
Those are partners that are donating something in the event. Something being like, for instance, the police department's going to have a police car there for children to see as they walk on to the inflatables that we have leased for the event. And same thing with like the fire department, those sorts of things. So while some of the, how do I say this? While some of the offerings are a little less than others, they're all important. We just wanted equal say. It's kind of, since it's a nonprofit thing and we're not really big on not sharing credit.
But it's sponsored by the Columbia Church.
Yes.
Okay, the police car, can I turn on the siren?
Flashing lights.
Yes, ma'am. Just you, no way. If the town is going to have the police officers there, that will have to come out of, we can't pay the officers separately.
Yeah, I think what we were going to do is kind of let them pay so it's not like you're talking about under our overtime or like that, and then we would just say if it's $1,200, we would write them a check $1,200 and they'd give you all this.
As long as we can't have police officers working under two separate work rules.
Right.
And that would be, we'd have to pay them overtime. If the town is sponsoring it, officers will have to work as overtime officers. If the officers being paid by the church to work off duty, then it's $30 an hour.
Right.
It's straight across the board.
Okay.
And you're
We know how to
saying,
do this? Okay.
Chief, you're saying 2 officers should do it?
It depends on how many people are going to be there. If they're going to have the 1,000 people show up that they're expecting, then 2 officers would have no problem handling 1,000 people.
All right, what about if they get 4,000 people?
Then we're going to have one of those officers.
So how are we going to make that call?
I've got Mr. JD's phone number. We would set up a schedule to call each other about once a week leading up to it.
I mean, you're not going to know until the day of the
Probably 2
event.
weeks prior. I've asked them to keep, they've done a lot of advertising, a lot of social media. I've asked him to keep up with what kind of feedback he gets, how many people retweet messages, how many people repost their Facebook page, to get some idea of what he's expecting there. Talk with the band, see what the bands usually get as attendance to one of their shows, and that'll help us gauge.
Are these Christian bands or this like?
No, sir.
So they're
I
not?
think Root Doctors was one, and he mentioned Elvis, but I can't remember and don't know.
I think the only Christian band on the list is the World Optic, but the rest of them are secular bands, do covers, pretty much just entertain the people that are coming in.
10-car pilot?
Yeah, that's what I said.
I understand. And the root doctors, okay.
So we may have to plan on, say, 6 officers, and then if they're not needed, send them home.
It's always easier to send people home than it is to call them from to come to work.
Yeah.
How about the sound? Are they going to just crank it up to their maxed out speakers? I mean, it's got to be within reason. We got the neighborhood.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We have an excellent...
Check it out, see how that amphitheater sounds,
I guess we'll find out, huh?
Exactly.
Actually, we have an excellent production company, Integrity Audio, who lives locally. His name's Nathan Rayleigh. He's going to have everything down at a very dull roar, I guess is a good way to put it. You'll know that there's a concert in the park, but you won't know there's a concert outside of the park. That's what he assured us.
Oh, come on, man. I want to see him speak that man.
Well, that's a problem. He's bringing his own. So we'll just know if the receptacles work.
Don't bother me none.
So you should come out there with us.
We're all going to come out there.
Well, about that, I was really hoping that we could have some representation from the town, since we're about the town. Like, this isn't about us coming out and proselytizing. We do that a lot on Sunday and at other events, but this was about, showing what we're for, not necessarily what we're against. Mm-hmm. So I would love any town council to be there. We have an MC from Fox, Watch Fox 57, who's going to be doing segments, and I'd love to have the orchestra pressed at our event, so we can kind of capitalize on the people that came to this, don't normally come to the orchestra.
There's no alcohol involved? I mean,
Of course not. We're not that liberal.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
It's quick and painless.
And let's see, any other received communications?
I have one. Now, you know a big event is coming to the Irmo or Columbia area August the 14th through the 17th. And that's the World Fishing Tournament worldwide. This is going to be on Lake Murray August 14th through the 17th. So this area is going to be people from all over the United States coming here. And plus we got these fishermen that will be coming. And it's a big event called FLW. It stands for Fishing League World. The name of the event is called Forest Wood Cup. And blast off is going to be from Billy Drew Island at 6:30. And then the weigh-ins each day at the Colonial Center at 5 o'clock. So, I just believe it would be good to have something from our town to maybe in a form of proclamation or about this event, promoting it, and especially have people, encourage people to improve their area, especially Lake Murray Boulevard. It's a big event. Let's show it off. I can't make people to clean up and make things look pretty, but suggest it.
Okay.
It's a big event.
Mm-hmm. And weren't they putting up the banners?
They're putting up banners. Do you think a letter to all the business owners, and you think that would help more than a proclamation?
Well, sure.
I think we could do that.
Channel 2 maybe, or...
And Channel 2, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And a listserv, and maybe the chamber.
Pick up trash, plant a tree, but just as a showcase. And this is going to be bringing a lot of revenue to our area. Not only Irmo, of course, the other surrounding areas, but a lot of people, a lot of companies, a lot of municipalities would benefit from this.
Okay.
So.
And it's August 14th, I think you said?
Yeah, that's a Thursday through, and then prior to that, they got some events. At Walmart. Walmart's the major sponsor. So.
This is like a famous thing.
It would be like Daytona 500.
Okay.
It'd be like the Super Bowl for football.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're not going to do any actual weighing in the park,
It's the cream of the crop.
No, they're going to weigh in at the Colonial Center.
Colonial Center.
And then they're going to have a big expo at the Columbia Convention Center on Friday and Saturday.
What can we do short of making sure no police pull anybody over for drunken driving? I mean, what do we do? I mean, what can we do? I mean...
Well, I think we can probably get Bob to put something on Channel 2 and maybe do that listserv and maybe make sure the chamber can notify businesses over here too to spruce up, clean up what's coming.
Yeah, in fact, the Department of Transportation is supposed to be cleaning up the roadways past the town of Irmo. Jake spoke to John Hardy, and Mary Matry has spoken to the Lexington County engineer that handles roadways and hopefully they'll spruce up the area around the dam up there by cutting the grass. So that's it.
We can make sure ours are clean too.
They always are.
No, they always are. St. Andrews Road looks good, by the way.
Now that you've commented to Whit about how well things look, and they do. That's another issue for something that goes on in the park.
Oh, yeah.
With that many people. I know we've talked about the overtime for police officers, but Whit's folks are going to probably be tasked with if nothing more than putting out the Herbie Kirby's and taking them up and doing that. So that's an additional thing that we need to discuss. And I would want to make sure that we have something specifically on the inflatables. I was at a festival this weekend. One got loose. Several kids were hurt. It tumbled across. Went across a couple pop-up tents. Something up in Maggie Valley.
Wow.
Any other received communication? Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to address council on anything that's on our agenda tonight may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Got one up here standing, ready to go.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Glassmer, 100 Denbeck Road. I'm here to discuss item item 9F, which appears as the top item on the back side of your agenda. The discussion of feasibility of implementing our own dedicated in-house 911 dispatch system for our police department. I've wanted this for several years. I've done a number of discussions with the chief about this and some with Mr. Brown. I think the time has clearly come for us to have our own dispatchers in the police department. There's going to be a number of advantages to this. First of all, citizens will be able to walk into our police department 24/7, 365 and have human contact, human interface with somebody at the police department. As it stands now, if somebody in the town needs a police officer in the evenings or on weekends, they have to call the dispatcher and get the dispatcher to relay to a police officer, and the police officer has to meet them where they are. I've also heard a number of horror stories, and I'm sure the chief can expound on this exponentially, of problems with the current dispatch system. As you may know, as things stand right now, our officers are dispatched out of Lexington Central. Some of those dispatchers that work there may have never even been to Irmo. So needless to say, they don't know the lay of the land. One story that the chief's related, two stories to me over the years that I remember. One of them, and if any of this is wrong, please correct me, a lady was at the Kroger in Irmo and needed a police officer, so she called 911 and says, essentially, I'm at the Kroger in Irmo, I need a police officer. The dispatcher was unable to dispatch an officer because the lady did not know the street address for the Irmo Kroger. Certainly all our officers know where that is, but I think that's either the mindset or they have a block they have to fill in on their screen before they can dispatch the call, before they can hit the enter key to go into the computerized dispatch system. So the call either didn't go out or was certainly at least delayed because of that. And I also understand there was a serious problem getting an ambulance to the town park when this young child was hit by the tree limb. There was a lot of breakdown in communications because the dispatchers didn't have a street address or didn't know where the Irmo Town Park was. And it's just a matter of time before we have a disaster here because the dispatchers don't know where things are, don't know what they're doing. And those dispatchers in Lexington dispatch for, what, about 6 or 8 other municipal police departments at the same time, the same console, right? Yeah. So they're not even dedicated to dispatch to Irmo. And I had a personal experience just a few months ago. I was at Broad River Road and Columbiana Drive right there at the Burger King, stopped at the light. The light was red. And across from while I was at the light, a car came flying off Columbiana Drive, drove right across Broad River Road, went up the curb and went through the fence over there and into the woods between the gas station and I-26 there. And so I picked up my cell phone and called 911. And that's yet another issue because, as I understand it, depending on where you are in the town, who your cell phone carrier is, and where the nearest antenna site is, you may get, if you dial 911, you may get the dispatcher in Lexington or the one in Richland. And then they have to sort that out. I'm kind of, because I have a background in law enforcement, as many of you know, I know where the jurisdictional lines are and what flavor of police are needed for what kind of incident. So I called 911, finally got the Lexington dispatcher, and I said, told him what I wanted to report. I said, it's on Broad River Road, directly across the street from the Toyota dealer. I need an Irmo police officer to respond to this location. I said, it's on Broad River Road at I-26 at exit 101, but on Broad River across from the Toyota place, please send an Irmo police officer. Said that twice. They said they got my name and number, thank God. About a minute later, I saw an Irmo police officer respond, and I later found out that she saw it happen from a distance, and that's how she was able to drive right up on it. But I figured the dispatcher just got it right. 10 minutes later, I'm at the public stand at Kennelly Road. My cell phone rings. The dispatcher's calling me and says, we're on I-26, and we can't find that wreck you called us about. That's what we're faced with under the current situation, and I'm sure the chief can give you 1,000 more stories. And the problem is, when these things happen, all the chief can do is call Lexington Central and complain about it, but he doesn't have any control over those people other than to make a complaint and to ask them to please get better and please fix it. So I think the time has come for us to have our own dispatcher here. Now, I've done some research. This is going to involve more than just setting up a table and chair and a phone and plugging in a two-way radio to the wall and hiring a dispatcher to say, here, you get on the radio and answer these officers when they call, and when we get a call, send them out there. It's going to be more involved in that. There's going to be some work and some expense. But it's my understanding that at least the equipment expense can be covered by the 911 assessment on your phone bill. If you look on your phone bill, there's a line item there. It's $1 or $2 every month for 911. And right now, it's my understanding all that money goes to Lexington because they are the 911. But if we became our own, we could get that money to pay for equipment, which should be a lion's share of the problem here. I think I've talked to the chief. He tells me he's going to have to do some remodeling in the building, and it's not going to be an overnight job. It's not going to be an easy task, but I think it's going to be well worth it. But at this point, all that's on the agenda is let's look into it and find out what the right questions are and what the answers for those are and what it's going to cost and where the money can come from. But I think we're long overdue to have this. And I would encourage you to at least charge the police chief and the administrator with looking into this and getting back to you and giving us some answers on what it's going to take and how soon it can happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to address council? Seeing none, we will go to the next item, unfinished business. Second reading of ordinance 1409 to rezone Lexington County tax map.
I got a, excuse me, I have an amendment to our agenda. Item D, new business item D.
Well, let's wait till we get down there to that one.
To amend the agenda?
Well, to whatever you're going to do, we can wait till we get there on D to do the amendment then. So we're at second reading of Lexington tax map 0192504-003, which is 7456 Eastview Drive from single-family residential to office commercial. Is there a motion for second reading?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
And any discussion?
Just for the record, this is again the property right behind Zaxby's off of Eastview, kind of as you go on to Eastview from Lake Murray Boulevard, kind of behind Dim's, and over to the right.
Behind that little barber shop.
Right, a little barber shop there.
And it's kind of, I think from what he said, it's all that property that's fenced in back over there right now.
Yeah.
And I think from what Bob was saying is whoever's buying that restaurant,
Atlanta
Bread, is needing additional parking. I guess they know what they're doing.
It's zone residential, right?
Yeah, zone residential right now. The property is right around there, according to that map.
Yeah.
Is the other stuff, so it's in line with the other stuff. And now I don't know, the only legal question I would have is if they're paving a parking lot, so to speak, and there's I don't call it a private driveway or a dirt road or whatever you call it, goes through there, those people's had access for years. I guess he understands they're still going to drive across his parking lot, and as long as...
Well, I don't think they could pave the road part.
But I think from what Bob said, they were going to pave everything and just mark the parking for whatever's on both sides of the road. He was saying there was some on this side, but I don't see it on this map, so I don't know. I'm a little bit confused about what part is on that side of Eastview, but maybe since that's technically not a road, maybe his property actually runs over here to this blue property. But that would be my only concern is down the road, he decides he don't want nobody riding across it or too many accidents, and he puts up a fence somewhere and goes that route. But I guess that would be, and I don't know if that would be something that if somebody's gone down a dirt road for 20 years and then somebody else decides to pave it and use it for a parking lot and leave that dirt road section paved but open, but somewhere down the road they decide to put up a fence and block it.
Well,
can they do that, or would?
Well, I have to look at there's a lot of things that go into that, especially if they have access other ways, and
Yeah, they do.
there's something retained on the plat, and, you know, if they have an easement that's in the plat, then certainly they wouldn't be able to block it without, you know, some way.
Because that would
getting
leave
rid of that.
people deadlocked. That would leave some people deadlocked.
I guess like landlocked from a
Yeah,
back to the
landlocked.
main road. I mean, yeah, but then they would certainly run into some problems with that.
Yeah, I don't think he can block that.
Yeah, I don't think he would be able to, but I don't know if that's down the road. If
I'm
you
not
might
looking at the plan.
decide to put all that money into that parking lot, and then people will.
Yeah.
He's
might decide-
indicating he's even gonna maybe pave up to Lake Murray Boulevard.
Ah,
He's indicated that.
I understand. It was mentioned.
It was mentioned.
I understand.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor then of second reading to allow the change from single-family residential to office commercial, do so with show of hand. And
I think-
all opposed, any opposed?
No, but I think we ought to check into that before we do have third reading,
Yes.
whether he can block that.
Next item is new business, approval of a contract with Spear Entertainment Services in the amount of $12,000. This was asked to be owned by the Orchestra Commission, and I don't know if y'all got a contract, but I didn't get one. Do we have one, or is there one, or?
Yes, there is a contract.
I got a copy on my iPad if you want to see it, but
No, there wasn't one unless somebody put it there. I didn't put the contract on.
Would y'all have one?
As far as I know, we do.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it personally.
There is one.
There is one.
Yeah.
And is it for, and is this for just him, but is it for the two bands y'all were talking about?
Right, it's the bands.
Mother's Finest and
Mother's Finest. and-
Tokyo Joe or something?
Yeah, Tokyo Joe, and there's a third one
Okay.
in there. And the deposit was made, but the balance, to be able to lock the date in, but the balance exceeded the amount. It has to come to council, as it's done every year.
here's,
So it's just,
if anybody wants me, I got the contract here, you want to send it to you? Or you don't need
I had to
it?
find it.
You need it?
I have one. No,
You got one? or
Yeah.
you-
got it.
Okay,
I just want to make sure it was for
that's right, you had to pay the deposit.
what y'all.
Yeah,
who
for the
was
bands.
involved, all that stuff.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
well, did we get a motion? I'll make a motion that we
No, okay.
approve the contract, the amount of $12,000 for Stroke Commission
And is there a
for
second?
the entertainment.
A second.
That's, I think it, okay, I think you need to amend that because you need another $1,000 for the other band. That's $13,000.
Not on this contract. Not on this contract.
Oh, for that one?
Right.
Yeah, for that one, yeah, but there's more than one
Right.
contract, you know what I mean? There's more than one band that you're paying for.
Yeah.
So do you need to get another $1,000 or you guys got it? Okay.
They got that in the sponsorship.
I could be wrong, but shouldn't we see a contract?
Barry will send it to you.
And you've got it as well? Okay. If you want to, we can defer it. It won't need to be paid until they come, but
Well, there's already, I mean, the deposit has been sent.
Yeah.
And
the deposit was not something that needed the council's approval.
the whole amount needed to be approved.
Right.
I could get it after the meeting, or I can go over there now if you want to.
Well, we're approving a contract I haven't seen the contract, that's all.
Well, what we're doing is approving the orchestra to expend their money for the bands.
Well, that's different, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we can't approve that. The commission can't approve that amount.
It's beyond their approval.
So that's why you have it, so.
Well, we don't have it. I think that's his question or comment. We don't. It should have been with us Friday, so we could have it over the weekend, and probably nothing in there that's any different from all the other ones, but at the same time.
It's about half of what it was last year. So.
I mean, the dollar amount or the contract?
Yeah, dollar.
Dollar amount, yeah.
Well, do you want to vote on it or defer it, or we can make a motion to defer if you want to, or we can.
Kim, would it be more appropriate, say we're approving the Orchestra Commission to engage into a contract with?
Well, actually, the Overstreet Commission is the ones that asked to have it put on, because that's something they have approved, but they can't, it's above their approval for the cost,
Right.
expense. But I can go get a contract if you like. If you want to wait and defer this till the end of the meeting, then I can go over there and get the contract so you can see it.
Okay.
We can see the contract.
I would love to see the contract, yes.
Okay.
What we will do on this, we got a motion and a second, if we can get a amendment just to defer it to the end of the meeting.
I made a motion, I'll amend my motion to defer it till the end of the meeting. That would put it at item G.
E, F, G, yeah. And is there a second?
I was the second. Okay.
All in favor then of deferring it till the end of the meeting? Item G? You so. Alrighty. Next is item B is an approval to close Church Street, portions of Eastview Drive and St. Andrews Road for the 2014 orchestra. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
And my only question would be, I know the church, Macedonia Baptist Church, wanted to maybe sell parking spaces or something. They'll still be able to get into theirs and it'd be closed beyond or wherever they, okay.
Yeah.
Because at one time too, I think they, and I don't know if they were going to do that, but at one time they were going to, I'm going to say, ask a few neighbors, like Mrs. Bowman's property, if they would let them, so they may, they may close it right there, but let a few cars pass through or something.
Well, you're not going to close Lake Murray Boulevard. This is just parts of Eastview.
And Eastview would be closed or around the curve or something like that, or past the entrance or whatever.
Just check it.
Yeah. Because you got to be able to get into Fox Run back there.
And then St. Andrews would be just for the
parade.
Parade, yeah.
Any more questions or comments, discussion? All in favor then of the approval to close Church Street, portions of Eastview, and St. Andrews Road for the parade on whatever day that is, the 28th, 29th, or
28th?
Saturday. It's a Saturday.
Yeah, the St. Andrews is Saturday. The other will be Friday and Saturday.
And I guess Friday at a certain time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one thing let me ask.
6th and 27th.
I don't know, as far as the people that live on Church Street, there's probably 7 or 8 houses down there, I guess. I don't know if there's any way to give them, like you give us papers that say we can go park here, the VIP, whatever you call that. We can print some up and give it to them. So if they want to leave to go somewhere and then come back in, then they ain't got to go to a big rigmarole. They can just display that thing, says resident or something like that.
We've done that in the past.
Let's see. I guess we're back to all in favor then of the closing. Did we already do that? We didn't vote, did we?
Hadn't voted yet.
All in favor, show of hands. Next item is the approval of a lease agreement in the amount of $24,000 for the property on Eastview Drive between the town of Irmo and Mr. Glenn Davis. Is there a motion for approval?
Mr. Mayor, I have some legal questions in regards to that, and I would like to make a motion that we take that up in executive session to get some legal clarification before we vote on that. That is a lease agreement. We all have it on our iPads, but there are a couple little errors there.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? We will go in executive session real quick, and discuss this lease, and then we'll be back out to vote on it. We're back from executive session, and we're back on item C, approval of lease agreement, amount of 24 for the property on Eastview Drive. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
In a second.
Second?
Yeah, second.
Yes.
Go. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Mayor, when I had asked for the executive session, there was some issues from a legal standpoint that I felt like we needed to get some advice on. And that being the case, I think we've discussed with our town attorney, and he's suggested that some of those changes or issues need to be incorporated in writing. So, I don't know if we need to defer this until the next meeting and get a clean copy back without strike-throughs and that type thing, just to keep the record clear.
Okay. So we have a motion to defer, to amend the motion to defer. Is there a second?
Second.
And I guess defer to the next meeting, August, whatever that is, 19th, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's 18th, 19th, something like that.
Motion's been seconded. All in favor then of the, or any discussion on the deferral? No discussion. All in favor of the deferral, do so with show of hands. So so the motion now is to defer the lease agreement until August 19th, and I guess we need to vote on that, So all in favor of the, I don't want to say approval of the lease agreement, but the approval of the deferral of the lease agreement, do so with show of hands. Next item is item D, approval of a contract in the amount of $3,600 with ARK Animal Removal and Control to provide on-call service for the town of Irmo. Is there a motion for approval? No motion? Going once?
Smooth.
Huh?
Smooth.
Is there a second?
I haven't actually.
I'll second just to discuss it because I see some big discrepancies here and what we have on our agenda and what has been provided to us, and some conversations that I had heard that none of it matches.
So we have a motion and a second. So any discussion? I'll recognize Councilman Walker since he put it on there and made the motion.
First of all, in order to get it on the agenda, I asked the administrator to put it on there, to approval of the contract. And I haven't seen a contract, but I do have a proposal that was sent forward with the amount of, I guess the proposal we got has an annual amount of $15,600, and the contract amount on the agenda was amount of $3,600. But I think what the problem is, or what the clarification is, I want us to have an amount. We have to have an amount so we can approve it on the agenda. So instead of having it to be $300 a week as a payment for retainer, I believe I wanted to read $300 per call every time we call this guy for services, to pay him $300, but that would give us 12 calls in an agenda, a calendar agenda year. So again, I don't see a contract anywhere, so I guess we can iron out the contractual matter at now at a later date, but I do have the gentleman, Mr. Bobby Kivett here, who can answer any questions from council. If anybody in council wanted to ask him any specific questions on his, for his contractual, innuendos and anything.
You mean his proposal?
Proposal, right.
Well,
I want to know if he can go on private property. And I don't know whether he knows that or whether our attorney knows that, but...
That's a very good question.
I think there's been some differences
Yeah.
altogether.
I'm not sure this will work for that reason.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Does police go on private property?
but they have
Yeah.
jurisdictional bounds, and so does the county, say dog catcher, animal catcher, or whatever you call
Yeah.
it. They have jurisdictional bounds to
If
go
the
on.
dog is running wild,
Yeah,
you can,
they can go basically anywhere in the county.
I'm saying if the dog is running wild, you can go catch him.
The county can,
county
but I don't think,
I don't know whether
know.
this gentleman can.
Even if he's...
Without the
police officer?
permission of the owner, property owner.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if somebody were to come on my property without permission, unless they had a badge on,
Yeah.
or had somebody said, whatever, I'd probably maybe chase them off, I don't know, depends on how-
But, the issue that I had was the difference between $300 a month or $300 per call or $300 weekly. I mean, it's three entirely different
Right.
issues there.
Well, look, I don't get a kickback from this, so we let him negotiate his own deal.
Yeah.
At the same time, I just want to make sure we're clear that
But the whole thing too is,
$300 per call.
I think you had mentioned before that part of the reason was to eliminate the possibility of what happened before, waiting on, but there's really no guarantee here either. I mean, it basically says that they will arrive or agree to arrive 30 minutes of the call, if at all possible, or as soon as possible thereafter, as promised, as traffic permits, which means they could be here 45 minutes to an hour after.
Ask him.
I'm reading it. I'm reading what he wrote. I'm just
I'd
saying.
ask him, the guy is here, ask him
Well,
what he means.
his signature is on this too, so I know that's what he's saying, that's what he's promising.
Well, I don't want to speak for somebody if that's not what he meant. I mean,
Well, if he hadn't meant it, then I don't think he'd have wrote it on there. I can understand trying to guarantee you're going to be anywhere in 30 minutes, but I think the county we're already paying the county, they're already responding, and we don't have that many calls as it is.
No, we're not. The county is responding, but the county is not a priority for the county. I mean, there's only one dog catcher, if you will, for the entire Richland County that's assigned to this area. And like the chief said, it may take 30 minutes, it may take, an hour. In the meantime, we pull out another 9mm and shoot somebody's dog, or we can have somebody else here to handle it for us.
And we don't know that they'll be here quicker than an hour.
Well, we know. I guess that's what I'm paying for. That's what I'm paying for, to have somebody to call to get them here quicker. I mean, we don't know if the county will be here within an hour. But I mean, at least I got somebody I know is going to be a priority for me. Is closer than across the county somewhere.
I am not in favor of this. We are paying it through our taxes already. There's not an issue. How many?
Sure, it is an issue. It is an issue. We shot a dog, and it raised a whole bunch of hubbub in our community. That's an issue.
But I don't think shooting the dog was over a time frame.
We shot a dog. Huh?
I don't think the shooting the dog was over a time issue. It was when the officer went to the door to respond, the dog came around, and then it happened. But I don't think it had to do with whether he had waited 30 minutes or an hour. When somebody calls, say a dog catcher themselves, or picks up the phone, that's one thing. But when they call the town to respond, we had an officer show up. I don't know.
It was a 911 call.
Yeah, I don't know that we should have an officer sitting in the car not doing anything when they can get out and
shoot somebody's dog.
If a dog is going to attack somebody, I think, whether it's a dog or a human or a person or whatever,
Would it be out of line to ask Mr. Kivett a couple questions?
No, I think it'd be fine.
Mr. Kivett, if you could approach them, Mike. The numbers that I'm looking at is $300 per call. If we use you, we owe you $300. If we don't use you, we don't owe you anything. Or $300 weekly, or $300 per month. Which is it?
Well, the question was, to begin with, was just how often were we going to be getting calls? And when I spoke to Kim, y'all said that usually it was like a monthly payment, and we had, between Barry and I think we had come up with what we thought was a fair amount of $300 a week. And she mentioned that y'all like to pay monthly, so that's where the discrepancies on that came in, where that works out to like $300 a week, that amount, that original amount that we came up with. Barrett,
What does it cost if I, as John Q. Public, call you? I have a strange dog in my backyard.
It would cost you $250. I don't have to be there within the 30 minutes. The extra 30 minutes, the guarantee is going to cost a little bit extra, because I may be out on a job doing something else for another client, and I'll drop what I'm doing just to get right back out here, to jump right through here and get whatever needs to be done.
So if I have a neighbor's dog that's vicious, I can call you, you can come and remove that dog?
No, sir, because that is on private property, and that was another issue that I had, that I totally agree with the whole board here on this, is where is that legal issue at? And so no, and I even mentioned that to you, Mr. Mayor.
Remember, you said you'd have to have a police officer, I think,
Yes, sir.
with you.
To escort me onto the property to be able to take care of that dog. And then I probably could.
But if you met with resistance because the homeowner says they think my dog's vicious and he's not,
then it becomes a civil issue.
You got to turn around and leave.
Yes. It becomes a civil issue then.
Okay.
But if we call 911 and the police officer responds and y'all call the county, then when the county gets there, they can go on site and make their own determination and do whatever they decide they want to do. We wouldn't have nothing to do with it.
And even if we did this, we couldn't get reimbursed by the county or anybody else, because we were setting up an animal control. I mean, we'd still be paying Richland and Lexington County for animal control.
Because we signed those agreements.
Yeah, and we got to.
Does the county remove snakes?
I don't think they'll do stuff like that.
No, they will not.
They'll tell the property owner, you need to call.
What's your snake removal cost?
$150. $150 for that.
Just collect them all.
So. And to be honest with you, only poisonous snakes get put down. So, non-poisonous snakes, they'll get released out in the wilderness.
Yeah, the county won't get.
They won't come out and get an animal. They won't come out and get a possum. They won't come out and get a rabid raccoon. None of that.
Any more questions of Mr. Kivett?
Thanks, sir.
If somebody in the park has a dog that's loose, call the county, they can't.
Well, it depends on what the person does. Now, if they call the county, then that's what they call the police.
Call the county, and they come out to the park and get the dog. Is that something we responsible for?
Well, if
Police would probably be involved in that.
Yeah, if somebody's at the park and they call the town, or they call 911 or the chief, but they call the police department, and the police department sends somebody out there, then if they can't, quote, chase the dog off, then they would call the
And the police
animal
has
control.
training in this, right?
Yes, we went to a training event put on it out at Lifelong.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
Non-violent training?
That's over and done with?
I was asking.
Yeah.
So all in favor then of the approval of the contract in the amount of $3,600 with ARK, do so with show of hands.
Wait a minute, I still haven't seen a contract.
Well, a contract or agreement or proposal, but it was on the agenda. That's what we got.
But I mean, that's what I'm saying. We don't have a contract. Is what I'm
Well,
saying.
this is what they supplied to us, so that's what we're voting on.
How are you going to vote on a proposal? It's not a contract, sir.
Because that's what's on here.
Okay, what you want us to do?
I want us to vote on a contract.
Well,
We ain't got one of those.
you asked for
My
this to
point
be
is
on the
exactly
agenda.
right,
You
so-
should have provided a contract. That's what we got.
How? Why, I mean, I should have, I'm not.
Because it's got your name
I'm not
beside it. You asked for it.
Animal removal.
Well, I think that in
Ark
order
Animal
to get it,
Moody's provides you with a contract. I'm just saying that, you know, I want to put it on the agenda to vote on the amount. I mean, if you have to have an amount, and we have two things we have to have.
Well, we can't vote on the amount without a contract, so this is
Exactly.
what we got.
the only thing, what you could do is you could amend this 3,600 to match the bid, the proposal that he's given, and then vote on that.
Is there a motion? I mean, if we want to, yeah, we can vote it down either up.
Or either just-
the way it is. I mean, depends on what y'all,
Mr. Mayor?
right now we got 3,600.
If I'm correct, Mr. Brown, before, when it was brought to me, there was $300 a week, and the amount goes to 15,600. That's even over and above that you would have to bid it out.
Right.
For
yeah, that's
anybody.
right.
You couldn't,
But what we got here is
Keep us straight.
3,600. So unless somebody wants to amend it to a different amount, we have to vote on
The 3,600.
36. And then if we do amend it to the other thing, then we got to go out to bid.
Well, Mr. Kevin is cool, I believe, and I don't want to put words in Mr. Kevin's mouth, but he's cool with the $300 per call. Is that right?
Very much so.
Okay, so knowing that, I think the $3,600 is enough for 12 calls this year. And I'd like to vote on amending this proposal to reflect $3,600 as the amount for a year, for a year's worth of calls.
But if we don't make those calls, we still owe him the $3,600, as I understand it. That's a retainer, and we're retaining him for something that we don't know that he can do.
That he can do. That worries me.
Yeah, going on private property.
Well, let me put it this way. If a dog is running loose in the public right of way, can he not go after the dog on that premise?
On the public right of way.
And the public right of way, but you use the one that we had before.
Can you chase the
Chief,
dog?
correct me if I'm wrong, the dog was chasing people that were running in the street.
Right.
It was a 911 call, joggers. When the officer arrived, the dog ran up by the porch. The officer went to approach the house to get them to lock their dog up, and the dog attacked at the officer, charged at the officer. So the Ark Animal wouldn't have been able to go on that property anyway, because the dog went back to a safe haven, so to speak.
So, I mean, so what's, again, do we have the ability to give him, I guess, authority to
I don't
act on
know.
our behalf and do that?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't know. That's the question.
I mean, I think, again, we got a county that's already providing the service for no charge.
Yeah.
And they can respond probably in about the same amount of time.
Don't say they can respond in the same amount of time. That's the reason why we're here in the first
No,
place.
it's not. They have responded in the same amount of
They
time.
take forever to come out.
I think there was a couple incidents here where they came out, one at 39 minutes, one at 44, and one at 60, and one at 22. The rest of them, they didn't know.
60 minutes is the same as 30 minutes?
Well, 39 and 44 and 22,
That's the same as 30 minutes.
that's less.
39 minutes is less than 30?
22 is.
Oh, okay.
And this is not a guarantee for 30 minutes either. So just scratch that off. That's not a guarantee. But we can, right now, we're here with a $3,600 contract do we want to vote on that, amend it, or add to it, or delete it, or move on?
I still think, shouldn't we get an opinion on him being able to go on private?
If you're interested in paying them $300 to come out, yeah, but if you're not,
Okay,
no.
okay.
Keep in mind, we don't have any, I don't know what kind of licensing you have to have to do this. I don't know what kind of insurance that someone has to have.
They would probably
We
need
don't
some
see any
liability
proof of that
insurance.
in this
Insurance
information.
to catch
Yes.
wild dogs and rabid animals?
They ain't catching right for us.
No, wait a
they be
minute, no,
catching-
stop. What did you just say? You didn't have insurance?
Well, I don't know. And
They would hold us
I mean,
harmless.
this just,
We called him.
yeah, I don't know what, if bonded.
No, wait a minute. Surely you just didn't say that they have to have insurance to catch a wild raccoon
I
or a
said
rabid raccoon.
that
Did you just say that?
Nothing was provided. It may be that
I
way.
think you do. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah. so-
Yeah, you do.
You have to have insurance to catch wild animals. Well, what happens? The animal's going to sue you or something if you catch
Well, the
one?
homeowner may have you,
I mean,
Do something.
I mean, seriously now, I don't understand. Why would you
That might be somebody's pet.
really?
I'm just trying to...
so,
We've only had one wild animal that I remember in the 4 or 5 years, and that was in Hill Creek. Anyway.
All I'm trying to do is to prepare or to protect our citizens against two things: against anything that may come up that I think our officers will be in peril in trying to prevent. I don't want to see our officers get in a situation like they got into last time where they have to put down somebody's pet because it was attacking, charging at him.
one of the ladies,
I don't want to see our officers get bit by a raccoon that's rabid. Now we have to,
well, we shouldn't be chasing raccoons. I mean, we should say, hey, that's your problem, go deal with it.
One of the questions I would ask Chief Buck, is there a problem? Is there a problem, do you foresee that we need to have a private animal removal person?
or dog catcher.
I think I supplied information to the mayor and the rest of the council about how many calls we've had in the last year for dogs running at large, and where we were asked to make a charge for dog running at large. I think it was 10 or fewer calls over the past 12 months. Is that, I think we've had more car break-ins than we've had dog running at large calls. It depends on how you define problem. I don't know that we've had as many calls for dog problems as we've had calls for other things.
But these weren't calls where it necessitated picking up the animal.
Those would have been all kinds of animal calls. We got one picked up by county animal control just yesterday, day before yesterday.
And one thing too, I don't know if y'all remember when this incident happened, that lady, I think Jamie Alferio, or however you pronounce that, cops for K-9. I know I had spoke to her, this was off that my daughter, somebody put a blind puppy in my daughter's pickup truck and she brought it home. Now we're keeping it. So anyway, I had asked that girl for some information on whatever we do with a blind puppy, and how to, that. She wrote me back and all this stuff. But she also asked to speak to Chief again about, they offer that same training that you went to. And that may be something. I mean, that may be something he can go to more often, or I won't say more often, but once a year, whatever, I don't know. I know they were going to try to talk to each other and go from there, but that may be just as good as doing all this too. But, so we ready to vote? All in favor then of the approval of the quote contract proposal, whatever, in the amount of $3,600 with ARK, do so with show of hands. All opposed?
We're sorry to waste your time.
Next item is reappointment to the Irmo Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustment, and I guess we can do those separately. Don Looney's term has expired on the Planning Commission, and he has asked to continue to serve, and I think Liam Holmesclaw term is expired on the ZBA, and he has asked to continue. And then I think we received one other, we advertised and all that stuff, and received one other request that they would be willing to serve. So we can do them both at one time or do them separately, however. Does anyone want to make a nomination for reappointment to the Planning Commission?
Mr. Mayor, I'd gladly nominate Don Looney to be reappointed to the Planning Commission. He has served us and served us well, lives in the town, and I would make a motion to reappoint him.
I would second that.
Okay. Any other nominations or appointments or nominations?
Well, if you want to do the...
We can do them both at the same time. If you want to do
I
them that
also
way.
would make a motion to reappoint Lem Holtzclaw. I think it's very difficult to find people that are willing to give of their time, and both of these gentlemen have served the town well and have requested to be reappointed, and so I again would make a motion to reappoint Lem Holtzclaw
Let me ask you
to
a
the
question.
Zoning Board of Adjustment.
I'll second.
Let me ask you a question. How do you, there's only one opening on each one, right?
Right now.
All right. How does one get on these boards and commissions if everybody that's on it keeps wanting to get reappointed?
Well,
I mean,
some don't. Some move out of town.
right.
We've had a couple, I think, Buddy, I think,
He just recently,
yeah, a couple of them, and because of their health, and I think maybe he had something with his eyes and couldn't see at night or drive at night, so he asked off. And I think it was somebody else last year that, I can't think now, who just
I
couldn't
can't
do it.
remember it, but we've had recently, there's been 2 or 3 that have new ones that have been appointed.
What, to the
To
zone?
the zoning or the,
Or
or the planning commission.
Planning commission.
We usually have to beg to get
Yeah,
people.
it's rare. I mean, the gentleman that brought that other request in to be considered, it was like on the last day.
And I don't know him.
Well, I don't know either. I'm just asking how does one, we keep reappointing the same ones to the board that's on the board.
Sometimes.
How does
Well,
new blood
sometimes,
get on
last
the board?
time I think we appointed 3 new ones.
Yeah.
Did we not?
Well, one thing,
It was
they
the
call
program.
us or make themselves known to us, so we
I
know who we're
understand.
voting for.
And the other thing would be,
Keep those on file, like this gentleman, if you are reappointed, if there was somebody that, when their term comes up and they don't want to, we call that, see if they want to.
That they would still be willing to serve.
Correct.
and there's another option down the road, but if we wanted to one day, you can do
I
term
think-
limits on these appointments.
Yeah,
Some places do like 3 years.
That's where I was going. I
Or
was
3
saying we
terms,
need to
whatever it
get-
is.
I
And
think we
then
need to
you have come
implement
off one
term
and come
limits
back
on some
on.
of these things because you got people that have been on these boards forever, and I understand they want to continue to serve, and I appreciate that. And I'll vote for anybody who's wanting to be reappointed. I don't have a problem with that. But turnover is not a bad thing. How do you get new blood on some of these boards?
The problem with term
You and I
limits too
have
is
to retire.
Fine.
if you say somebody can
That'll
serve for
happen.
2 terms or 3 terms or whatever, and then they got to come off for a term to come
Right.
back on, sometimes you don't have anybody willing to.
Sometimes
Really tacky, Mr.
It's my
Mayor.
son's birthday, and I think they're bowling. They're probably wondering where the professional lover is, waiting for me to come score the high score. But then you don't get some people sometimes, and then you're stuck.
Yeah.
Now you got, So there's pros and cons to both ways, but that can be put on the agenda at a later date if we want to do that. But right now, do we have any more nominations from the floor, or is that? So we're ready to vote on these 2, Don Looney and for the Planning Commission, and Lem Holtzclaw for the ZBA. All in favor of these 2 being reappointed, do so with a show of hands. And all opposed? Anybody? Next item is EF.
Let's meet.
Discussion of the feasibility, don't forget we got G.
Okay.
Discussion of feasibility of implementing a dedicated in-town 911 dispatch.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
this is something that's come up several times. I've heard from several people who have called 911 and gotten either no response or an ineffective response. And just like Mr. Glassmeyer said, you know, this is a problem that it's not if, it's when. Because sooner or later, it's going to be life and death, and we're not going to be able to help the people because the people that work there don't know where the Kroger and Irmo is, or don't know where the town park is. I mean, we almost had that anyway. I think it's serious. I also think it's very expensive. But I think there are ways that we can readjust money, which we pay now for 911 service, that would help subsidize this. And we might have to start small, like with an employee that we put in the dispatch center, and then one day open up our own, or, you know, whatever. I just think it's something we have to talk about because it's a problem. And it's a problem that's not, this isn't slight.
No.
You know, my husband had a stroke, and I had to call 911. And I had just been elected to council, and I'm sure that got the police there quicker because they knew where I was. If you've ever had to dial it, you'll know how important it is to have somebody who knows what the devil you're talking about. And I think it's serious. And I think there was a lady who wrote to us, she lived in New Friarsgate, she backed up to that park. And she said that there were things going on at night behind the ball fields, and she elaborated about what it was.
She lived in
Miss Goff.
Yeah, she was mad because she couldn't get anything stopped, from immoral actions to theft to vandalism. She couldn't, because she couldn't identify well enough for the 911 dispatcher to get there. And if she had called one of us, we know where she's talking about. She's talking about the back of the ball diamond. You know, I know where she means. I just think it's serious. I think we ought to ask the chief and Bob to talk about it, look into it, give us a proposal, tell us what we ought to do to solve the problem, because it's a problem.
I likewise would be looking for a good, better, best situation. I think we're in a very unique situation in the town of Irmo. Everybody has mentioned the Kroger in Irmo. There is a Kroger in Irmo, but its address is not Irmo. There's a Wendy's in Irmo proper, but its address is not Irmo. And if you call, that Wendy's is listed in Columbia. Councilman Walker, you live in the town of Irmo proper. Your address is Columbia. So when they're looking at that, there's one issue. Is it in the town proper and with the address? Do they understand that connection? The next thing, I live in the Richland County portion. You live in the Lexington County portion. Where does that line go? It's just...
It's a unique situation.
I know they get a lot of calls, and they get irate people trying to convince them, but it's like talking to the wall sometimes.
And if they've never been to Irmo, they don't know where the Kroger is.
Right.
All of us do. I mean, you know, it's a landmark.
You know, I don't know, you know, I agree, I mean, we do, but I think they have those same problems everywhere you go. I can't think of that lady's name, Nikki something, Rogers. I spoke to her after the thing over here in the park. The lady that actually made the phone call, she lives in her neighborhood back there, and she was telling me they were kind of arguing.
And she was a dispatcher.
Well, and yeah.
Yeah.
But part of the problem too.
We notified them about 3 times of the address of that park when we opened it.
Yeah, well, they had the address in their system, from what Nikki says, but the person didn't know what the address is. And see, that's the problem. If I'm calling in, like George says, and I'm at an intersection, and I say I'm in front of a Toyota dealer, that may be what, they may even know where the Toyota is. But if they're going to send the EMS or a fire truck, they can't send that on the computer. They punch in 1519, whatever the address is, and that goes out to the fire department. And the fire department or EMS or whoever sends their truck out. that's what they're going by. That's why they got to have an address. In my mind, and I'm not at all computer whatever, but I can't understand why they can't have one of those little pop-up screens that say Kroger, Irmo, and then get an address, and then they punch it in themselves and zoom off they go. But it doesn't work that way. From what I understand too, in order to do 911, you got to have 2 per shift. And I don't know how many hours that is, if that's 1 shift or 2 shifts at night. So you're up to 2 employees automatically.
Oh, I know it's going to be expensive. And I want to know ways we can get money without costing the town.
And that'd be some of the stuff. I think too, that cell thing, no matter where you're at, if it's Irmo or Lexington or Richland, and somebody's on a cell phone, depending on where, the call may go to who, so that's not going to be solved 100% by us having our own.
But it works on TV.
Oh, I know. And the same thing, Columbia and West Columbia and all them got the same problem. You know, some of their zip codes and all that is in Richland County, Lexington County jurisdictions and all like that.
But we have an aging population, so it's going to become more and more important.
I think, and I don't know how you get, say, the state or somebody like that, but until they make them get equipment that does that stuff. Because if you're sitting there, you know, I mean, if you're at home, you know where you live. If you're at Kroger or even the State Museum, you don't know that. I don't know the address of the State Museum. I don't know the address of that part. I don't know the address here. But she said another thing, if they know an intersection, like Lake Murray Boulevard, St. Andrews Road, they can pinpoint in with that and start sending somebody.
I thought the technology with cell phones is that you don't need to have a location. They can find, like my GPS.
Well, see, like mine's cut off.
Exactly where I'm at.
Mine's cut off. Now, you can cut them off on that too, so anytime I go anywhere or whatever, it doesn't track me. But if I go somewhere and I turn it on, it does.
And sometimes it depends on where the server is.
Or your service, if it's Verizon or AT&T. But if it's something like Boost or one of these or track phones that you buy, the throwaway deals, they can.
Look into it. I just think
I think I'd like to see
solve a whole lot. We'll probably, and from my understanding too, and I don't know, Chief may know, George had mentioned something about somebody walking in and saying, I don't think it happens in a 911. I think that's a secluded place. From what
Lexington County Dispatch is in an unmarked windowless building hidden
in the basement.
Lexington County somewhere. They're not in the basement.
Not in the basement.
Yeah, they build it.
Surrounded by 12-foot unclimbable fence.
Nowhere there,
stuff. And that's, I was telling Mr. Glassmeyer, since we're an accredited agency, we have to meet certain standards of accreditation if we were going to open a dispatch center. I understand what he's saying, having, somebody wants to walk in the lobby of the police department, ask for a police officer, file a report. That may be an option, but we would have to do certain renovations of the police facility to make sure that, somebody couldn't walk in and, drop a car in the front door and release a Ebola virus or whatever. It would have to be a secure facility.
I just want y'all to have an open mind.
I have.
Listen to his, he and Bob are both going to work on it, and I appreciate that. And I think it's baby steps. We have to start small and see how this is going to work, because we don't know. But I think
we have to be realistic in knowing that it's something that we can probably grow into, but it ain't going to be something that we just add one person for.
No.
I mean, you're looking at 24/7. You're looking at shift changes, you're looking at holidays and sick days and that kind of thing.
Recordings.
Right.
And that money can be used for the equipment.
Is there a manager? Is it the federal government? Or who manages?
When you say manage the 911 system?
I mean, Lexington County, who do they have to report to? Who monitors their management?
The council? County council?
Ms. Rogers works for the county administrator. She's the supervisor of the 911 dispatch center. Separate is emergency management in the county, which is going to be the emergency manager, disaster preparedness, and all that kind of stuff, which is usually lumped in with the 911 center.
Does West Columbia, KC, City of Columbia, do they have their separate 911?
City of Columbia, Richland County have a combined dispatch center. West Columbia and KC have their own dispatchers. City of Lexington, Chapin, South Congaree, Billion, Swansea, Gaston, Airport, Pine Ridge, and Irmo are all dispatched out of the same facility.
So that's really a lot to know about an area.
In addition to fire departments and all fire departments in the county EMS service and the county sheriff's office are all dispatched out of the same building.
Good Lord.
And that's why they have to have the address, because when they send that call out to wherever it goes, they can't send it's down there next to, to go. They gotta have, and to me, they still ought to be able to fix that.
When you call in to 911, you're at your location, does it pop up on the screen because of your GPS?
If you call from a landline, it does, but if you call from a cell phone, I don't think it does.
I don't know, I'm asking.
The technical answer is, it depends. If you have a brand new phone that you just purchased in the last 6 months, it should have a GPS device in it, so that when you dial 911, the GPS coordinates will be transmitted to the 911 dispatch center. That's assuming the dispatch center has the sufficient technology to recognize the GPS coordinates and then display them on a map. So there are lots of different cogs that have to come together. If you have a first generation cell phone, you've still got the 3-watt bag phone, you're not transmitting anything. If you have a flip phone, you probably are not transmitting anything. It's only the very new cell phones that have the technology built into them where it will do it automatically. You don't have the capability of turning it off for a 911 call.
We'll keep an open mind and we'll gather the information.
And while they're doing it, I'd like for them to look at that call box thing too that we talked about over there in the park. And just kind of see what that
possibility of having call boxes.
Oh, you can bowl it too?
I've talked with the University Police Department, University of South Carolina Police Department. They've purchased hundreds of them. They range between $5,000 and $7,000 each.
A piece?
And
they go out on a wireless. They don't have to have a landline. They go out on a...
It's a cell phone based technology. You don't have a dial pad where you can call your friends on the call box, but that's how it works. That's how it transmits back. But they also have audio and video surveillance on every one of the call boxes. So when you press the button, the camera starts recording whatever's going on at the time you press the call button. It has flashing blue lights on it, so they're easy to find.
They have those at the Midlands Tech parking lot as well.
Wow.
Well, I think your plate is full to come back with some answers.
Just whatever, have a 50-page report ready tomorrow. That'd be Thank you, Brian.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more discussion? Next is item G, back to what we deferred, the approval
of the Oak contract.
For Spear Entertainment. We'll put that back on the table. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at that, to see. And we've already paid the $3,000 deposit, looks like, so that's... So any questions on the contract? We ready to vote?
Yes.
All in favor, let me find it on here, item A. All in favor of the contract with Spear Entertainment Services in the amount of $12,000, which would be for the two bands, Mother's Finest and, is that one for just them or is that one for both?
That's just for that
Okay, so just Mother's Finest. All in favor, do so with show of hands. And any opposed? Next item is presentation by citizens. This is where anyone who wants to speak to us about anything on the, not anything on the agenda, about anything, whether it's on the agenda or not, may do so at this time. All we ask is you give us your name and address for the record. Seeing none, Okay, go ahead.
I said something to him about, I'm Miriam Sheila, and I own the property adjacent to the 7456 Eastview Drive. And according to my plat and my deed, for what it's worth, I own the road in front of the property as well as a strip across adjoining that 7456 Eastview. It's not landlocked because they do have access right
From
now
the other
to the
side.
house and all. But I do want it understood that I don't want them to take my property over there on that side of the road, because if that road is ever paved or anything, that would mean where would my 30 feet that I contribute go? Would they still want to come over and take some more on my side? I want mine reserved on that side of the road so that it could be used for that, and I don't want my vegetation cut down and everything, because if they're using that as a parking lot, and should I get lucky enough to sell mine or whatever I do with it, I don't want people coming over there using mine just like it's that lot, you know, as a parking lot. And I don't want to cause any hard feelings, but I want y'all to be aware of it, that it is there, and so take that into consideration on what you do right here. And I know Mr. Owens because I have talked with him on you. Super nice guy, nothing personal, it's just the fact that I do want that to be, y'all to be aware of that here. And I'm sure on your tax maps and all, you've seen that, but it seemed to be able to go, it just sort of seemed to be a little question. So I wanted to be sure.
He's a good.
Real estate.
Bill Owens is a wonderful guy. But I just, like I say, if you do, I've had a lot of experience with that kind of thing, and I know that a little strip across the road can make a lot of difference in what happens down the way. So, just for the record.
And evidently, part of his property or part of that property that they're looking at buying must come across the road kind of on your side of the street behind.
No, none of his comes, none of that comes over there. All that's on that side where I am is mine, and I
all the way back up to
and across over. If you'll look at the survey state,
well, that was the thing I was talking about with Bob, trying to figure out where's theirs.
That's what made me think about it when y'all started saying that.
Came across.
When I've had it surveyed, and when I went down the other day and saw the sign, I saw the survey stakes that makes it fully aware, everybody aware that it is like that. But like I say, he's not deadlocked because he does have access, but it would be so easy when he gets people in there clearing that and paving it or whatever he's going to do to push down my trees and so forth, and just incorporated it in with his, and then it'd be a problem down the way. When the road is being paved, or whatever I do with it, sell it, if they want to use that, you know, it's my property, okay?
We have, whenever they go to get a permit to clear any of that, they have to mark where trees are, and on their property, Mr. Klein goes out and double checks. To make sure. He goes out and double checks to make sure that they're on there.
Okay, and you're the one that I need. Okay.
We've only had that issue once.
Miriam, that's Sandy Klein's son.
Are you?
So you know how to get a hold of him now.
Now she's got him.
Your problems are over.
Now you want to ask your question?
I hate to say that I've never been to a council meeting, so I'm really nervous about this. But
just give us your name and address for the record.
My name is Deborah Lucas, and I'm with Dems Fine Jewelers, and I'm on Lake Murray and Eastview. And I came to listen to what you guys were saying this evening, and it seemed to me that you are a little bit confused about what's actually going on with that parking lot and Eastview. I may be wrong on that, but I'm not opposed to what, using it as a parking lot, but there's some issues that I'd like to get cleared up in my mind. One being where Atlanta Bread is now, they have a parking lot directly behind Dim's, and then the Shealy's, I believe, am I correct? Then your property is. That parking lot there was no access from Eastview onto that parking lot. And from what I recall over the years, Atlanta Bread wanted access out there, but they were denied access. And so is that going to be opened up? Because that road is very narrow. The other problem that we have is, and I'm sure you probably wouldn't be aware of this, but these large trucks that come out of Zaxby's, they come onto Eastview. And I can't tell you the number of times they have gone over our property. There's probably truck tracks there now that, honestly, we've caught it on film before, and my brother calls the companies, because he can see the trucks in the camera, to come back and put our property back together. So I just want you to be aware that that is a very narrow area. It is not conducive to two-way traffic. Right. It's not even conducive to these big trucks coming out. This is a really big issue, because we fear that one day we're going to have an 18-wheeler in our building. And again, I'm not opposed to them putting a parking lot there, but I just think everyone needs to know the issues that are going on in that little strip. And is anyone talking about paving this?
Owens was.
Not to my knowledge.
When he came and talked with us. Now, I'm not saying because he doesn't have to do it.
Right. Well, see, my understanding was that there's, because of drainage issues, because of having to widen the road, there'd be a lot of red tape. I don't know that he's not, I don't know if he's here tonight or not, but
from what I remember, and this is old memory, but as you were referring to back years ago when they wanted to open that road and Atlanta Bread wanted a thing back there, it's, from what I remember, they couldn't get one because that's not a road. Even though it looks like a road, technically it's not a road. Like Miss Sheila said, her property goes really across the road. And I think the property that this guy's looking at buying, his property comes all the way across the road up to, say, where your property and Miss Sheila's property is, where the Atlanta Bread Company comes around. So it adjoins right there. Even though the road is on his property, it's really not a road.
So let me ask.
That's why they couldn't give him a curb cut or egress-ingress, because that's not a road. And DOT won't allow that road to be paved because it doesn't meet the 18 or 23rd, whatever the distance is to come on to Lake Murray Boulevard. It doesn't meet that. So they won't allow it to be used as a public road.
I never knew that. So let me ask you this. I don't know if you know, and I guess I should, but...
So in my mind, I don't know if he can get permission to pave something that's not his, since probably you or Zaxby or the guy at the barbershop probably owns to the middle of that dirt road.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Who owns the non-road between the barbershop and Dim's?
Probably you or the barbershop.
I'm not aware that we own it.
But that barbershop, the lady that used to own that, Wong or something, she owned a pretty good ways over. But in order for DOT to give whatever road, they would have to come in there, and the road would almost go up to her building. Right. And up to
they require 50 foot.
Yeah, and there's only like 51 or 52. And
we would have a big issue. We would have a huge problem with that, because like I said, we're already getting these trucks.
And she wasn't going to give up hers, because then she wouldn't have any property left.
Sure.
And I'm sure y'all wouldn't give up. So it was kind of a mute issue. But from what I understand years ago, from I think a previous county administrator told me, they won't even allow that to be used for, and that's why Miss Shealy couldn't get general commercial designation because they have to have a two-way street in order to do that. And that's not a two-way street, and it's really technically not a road.
I never knew that.
It's just an old driveway. And they won't, nobody will, you know.
So is that, so the entire Eastview is technically not a road?
That part is.
Yeah, on the other part where our park is, it is down to certain, and then it's not after that.
County is.
Okay.
But I don't know that we would allow, when he gets into it, he can connect his property behind Atlanta Bread now to his property over there, but they wouldn't give him a permission to drive people out Eastview.
Okay, well, I just wanted to know what was happening with it is really,
And that's why I was
I welcome, you know,
They may have to block that to keep people from coming out of the parking lot and coming down Eastview and getting on that, to keep that road from getting...
That's originally...
If they do have to block it, then everybody that lives on that road may have a issue.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Okay.
Let me understand that when trucks come to Zaxby's,
Yes.
they come out next to Dim's?
They come out on
And that
East...
little thing.
They come out that little cut through on the back.
And I'm telling you, it's a mess.
Because they can't turn.
Big trucks?
Oh, yes, 18-wheelers come out
The
there.
delivery trucks and the trash trucks.
Well, I'd be afraid
Yes.
it's going to hit Dim's too.
I mean,
Dim's is pretty.
they've really torn us up over there a number of times, but like I said, I mean, it's just an issue, and I just wanted to be sure everyone was aware of it, and I wanted to see if I could understand what was going on back there. Because like I said, I welcome the parking lot if, you know, if it will help the business where Atlanta Bread was, because we obviously, you know, are interested in that. But that road is an issue, so the non-road is an issue.
Make a note for Bob, give him that they may need to contact Zaxby's owner and talk to Zaxby's owner about telling them they can't do that anymore. And that might fix that problem.
Well, I'm not trying, no,
But-
wait, I'm not
Now,
trying
they
to
can
call
park, I don't know,
Zaxby's.
but I think I've seen them park trucks out in the, Lake Mary Boulevard and deliver that way.
Shouldn't she call 911?
You know the address.
Actually, I did not know that there was going to be a discussion about 911, but I think that would be a blessing. We have had to dial 911 at Dim's because of different issues of safety and security, and we've been robbed there before or broken into, and it would just be awesome to be able to pick the phone up and talk to someone directly instead of knowing I'm out in Lexington and they're trying to, as you said, they're trying to figure out where I am. It delays someone getting to us. You know, I'm going, are you sending someone? Is someone coming? You know, and they're still trying to figure out where we are. And so I think, you know, for our citizens, I think for the merchants, you know, God forbid something should happen at one of our schools and someone's calling and our children are at risk. I mean, there's so many reasons, and this should be a top priority.
Well,
it really needs to be a top
God forbid,
priority.
it's already, I mean, we've already...
You know,
very good.
If you have a stroke now, you have 2 hours to start treatment to reverse the damage. They can't do it in more than, it's got to be less than 2 hours. You know, and if you're paralyzed on one side and you can reverse it, but it takes that long to get them transported, you know, that's very important to me and to anyone.
I totally agree. There, you know, the citizens, your merchants, I think we all deserve that, to be honest with you.
I do too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to address council on any issue? I will ask you to give us your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Next item is executive session. I do have something I want to discuss, a legal, I guess, it's not the one you were thinking of, but a legal matter. So I'd like to ask that we have an executive session for a legal contractual matter. Is there a...
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss or receive legal advice on a contractual matter.
Yes. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This won't take very long. You missing somebody?
Barry. Oh, you went in the restroom?
Well, we got enough for a quorum, we still vote.
Yeah.
We're out of executive session, no votes were taken, no decisions. We're now to adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.